Time for the lion to roar.
Ooh, yeah. Time for Daniel in the Deacon's Den. How about that?
Welcome to the Deacon's Den. Last week I shared some quotes and insights from Pope Leo's new encyclical, Magnificat Humanitas. And today I want to continue that conversation with some other features of this really important document. You know, in some ways it felt like the whole world took a collective breath last month before the encyclical was released. We were wondering what Pope Leo was going to give us in terms of insights in our faith. And a lot of people, before it was even released, dubbed it as the AI document because he was going to be discussing artificial intelligence. But the fact is, the document is really more about what it means to be human and how to take care of one another. And he simply addresses technology as part of that bigger topic. So, I'm really going to date myself here, but it was in 1983 that the rock band called Styx released an album that was called Kilroy Was Here. Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer. It was probably one of their weakest albums, so I don't recommend running out to buy it. But it did have one song on it that became a hit. You may have heard it. It's called Mr. Roboto. And the song was about a Japanese-made robot that was designed to do tasks for its owner. And here we are 43 years later, and now we have robots that cut the grass, vacuum the house, and even deliver pizza at a restaurant. So that album and the song on it were certainly prophetic. But there are 4 lines in the song Mr. Roboto that I think summarize a lot of what Pope Leo warns us about in this new encyclical. The song says, "The problem's plain to see, too much technology. Machines to save our lives, machines dehumanize." And I really believe those phrases are not only prophetic, but they're very much in line with this encyclical. First, yes, we do have a problem. Technology is evolving quickly. It's hard to keep up. It seems like every day a new operating system, a new device, a new web tool emerges. And they make what we were doing last week almost obsolete. So it's hard to keep up. And we can indeed respond by just throwing up our hands and saying, stop, too much technology. And there are some who want to wave a magic wand and just make the technology go away. We've seen that in the evolution of some schools that deny the use of technology to its students. But I quoted Pope Leo last week where he says in the encyclical that this is not a use or don't use dichotomy. Instead, it's about how we will use the technology appropriately. Let's be honest, technology is not just going to disappear tomorrow. It's here to stay, just like automobiles replaced riding a horse to work 100 years ago. Now, I have to admit, as the song says, machines can save our lives. Think, for example, of the bells and whistles in a new car that detect people passing behind us, or airbags that automatically inflate if we're in an accident. But the problem the song poses also is that machines dehumanize. And Pope Leo points out that no technology is neutral. Technology either works for us and the common good, or it divides and harms us. And so he says we have to ask ourselves, do these innovations truly help individuals and peoples to become more humane and fraternal while respecting our common home and future generations? So one way it can definitely hurt our world is by challenging our humanity. When machines can do jobs that people used to do, when typing a conversation into a chatbot online replaces going out on a date, when posting pictures on social media becomes more fun than going to the event and mingling with the people themselves, we have a problem. And Pope Leo says in his encyclical, in the era of artificial intelligence, when human dignity is threatened by new forms of dehumanization, ours is the pressing duty to remain profoundly human. So we have to remember that even God is a community, right? A trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Son is eternally begotten of the Father. The Spirit is the love they share. God is a model of what it means to be in relationship with one another, with real people that we share time with, we laugh with, we cry with. And Pope Leo prophetically says that technological advances may result in what he calls an increase in means without a growth in humanity, having more without being more. Think about that for a minute. Having more without being more. So the name of the game in the Catholic viewpoint is not just building earthly possessions, it's by being more like Christ. And so he warns us that AI doesn't undergo experiences. It doesn't possess a body, feel joy or pain. It doesn't mature through relationships. It can't know what love, work, friendship, and responsibility mean. And more importantly, he says that AI does not have a moral conscience to judge between good and evil or to bear responsibility for consequences. So he talks about educating ourselves so that we appropriately use technology available. If you want to use AI to create a map that allows you to visit 5 parishes in the shortest time and distance possible, it can do that in a few seconds rather than spending an hour or more on it. And to me, that's a good use of technology. On the other hand, if you want to use AI to write a personal letter to someone or to have a conversation about a topic, it can do that. But that crosses the line in terms of doing what humans should be doing. So we have to protect the most vulnerable, particularly our children and our senior citizens. And we can do that by educating them on when technology should and should not be used. You know, everything from audio files to images can easily be altered by technology to manipulate the thinking of others and to mislead. And it's our responsibility to teach others to be cautious. I don't think it makes sense to simply hide technology under a rug and pretend like it doesn't exist. But we do have to monitor its proper use in the world. And Pope Leo specifically warns about giving those devices to children who are too young to understand how they might be getting manipulated, particularly if they don't have good adult supervision. So in paragraph 80, Pope Leo puts it this way. I'll quote him here. He says, "In the digital age, a just social order guarantees everyone equal access to opportunities, protects the youngest and weaker members of society, combats hate and misinformation, and subjects the use of data and technology to public oversight, so that the guiding principle is not solely profit, but the dignity of every person and the common good of all people." You know, you and I are made for relationships. We're made for community. And technology can foster that community or it can tear it down. Pope Leo in paragraph 219 urges, he says, people must return to speaking with one another because a sincere and persevering dialogue always opens up the possibility of an honorable solution when they disagree. So together, let's continue to seek the truth, to build good relationships with one another, and to cautiously learn to use technology in a way that truly fosters humanity and serves the common good. And I would say if you have more interest in this document, I urge you to download it. It's free online. You can read it a little bit at a time. There is enough in that encyclical to talk about for years to come. Meanwhile, thank you for joining me today. I look forward to talking to you again next week.